Hey everybody, welcome back to my homestead. It has been quite a while since I recorded a video. A lot has been going on. I even started to make a video one day and just decided to not because I was in a really bad mood that day, I guess. And I'm going to take you on a garden tour today. It's the 2nd of October, so it's been about a month since the last garden tour, and show you what else has been going on. We had a heat wave, and I think the last video, maybe we were picking apples and I was wearing a sweatshirt the whole time. Well, I was out in a tank top that whole week. It was really hot. So hot that I didn't even want to be outside working on things, if I could help it, at least not during the peak of the day. But I did do one project out here in the garden, which I will show you. It was only mildly successful. You can see here I've attached some 2x2s to the trellises and to that fence over there. There's another one over there. The fence post in that corner is really tall, and so is this one right here. It's a very tall fence post. So I put those 2x2s up, and we have strung fishing line, if you can really see it very well, about every foot. This is the bottom one, so there is more than a foot below this. Let me get out from under the apple tree. I went up as high as I could reach from the ground, and that worked for about a week to keep the deer out. I also put these up so people don't just run into it. That worked for maybe a week to keep the deer out. They broke down one of the fishing lines the very first day, but then didn't seem to get in the garden, and I tied that back up. But then I think they started just jumping over this piece right here, because the one above it was like slack a few times. I had to tighten it back up. But I need to get a ladder and get up there and put fishing line higher. But I'm honestly not sure if I even want to bother with it. And the reason is because most of the vegetables are done for the year. Unfortunately, the deer have already eaten almost every single tomato. I got enough tomatoes out of my garden to can 1 quart of tomatoes. I got some from the library garden where I'm part of the garden club, and we have a little vegetable garden there, and I ended up taking some of the tomatoes home from that because everybody else had tomatoes in their garden and didn't need any or want any. So I ended up taking them home and canned 1 quart and 1 pint. So that's all of the tomatoes for the entire year that I've been able to put up. No slicers. Absolutely no slicers. I only had like 3 that were even growing, and not 3 plants, but 3 tomatoes. 3 slicing tomatoes. And the deer ate all of those as well. So I'm really bummed about that. The first big slicer that got eaten, that was the last straw where I just threw this, fence up really quick one day because I was really upset about losing my only pineapple tomato. And so I threw this up, but unfortunately it's really not deterring the deer anymore. And we have most of the stuff that's still growing is in here. I've planted some more stuff, and I've got some row covers I plan to put on that. But another row of things, the peas and the carrots, those are still vulnerable because they are underneath this last trellis here, and there's no protection past that, so the deer are just going along and chomping the tops of the carrots here and there. Thankfully, they're not doing too much damage. Also, it is the first day of bow hunting season, and I have a friend who's going to be hunting on our land because we don't hunt at this point. So maybe that will help also. So I'm not sure that will... I might go ahead and do it just to see if it keeps them out, because I want to know if it works and if I need to do something similar or way different next year. My zinnias are still looking great. I've stopped picking them and I'm going to let them go to seed so I can hopefully save some seeds. We are actually past our average last frost date. It was September 23rd or 25th. I'll put it on the screen because I don't remember exactly. But, oh my goodness, look, we have an okra blossom. I haven't caught any okra blossoms actually open all season. I've picked okra twice, which is really not very much. And it's laughable how tiny these things are. These should be taller than I am. But I usually end up seeing them like this, and the next thing I know, I don't actually get to see it open. So I might not actually get to see that flower open. I'll have to try to come back later today. But that's fine. We'll try okra again next year, see if we can do any better. Oh, you can see all the little deer footprints all over the garden. I've got a crookneck squash over there. It's not quite ready. And they're really petering out. But I have a zucchini here that is ready to pick. So I will come and I'll get that after our tour is done. That's only my second zucchini. In a previous video, I had told you that I'd picked my very first zucchini ever in my whole life that I had grown. And there was another one growing and I was excited about that. It wasn't properly pollinated and it just rotted and fell off the plant, and that's happened 2 or 3 more times, and now I finally have one that got pollinated properly and grew. This is now my second ever zucchini that I have grown. Better than last year, so I will take it. Next to the zucchini is the yellow straight-neck squash, and between the zucchini and the crookneck were patty pans, and I didn't get any patty pans at all. And the yellow straight neck, I got a couple of them, but this area just didn't do very well. It needs some amending. We'll see what I'll be able to do for next year. My hibiscus didn't do anything. They're still super tiny. That's these here. This is the biggest one, but that's okay. My nasturtiums are almost finished blooming, and I've been collecting some seeds. We've got this really big sunflower. Check that thing out. I'm gonna save seeds from this guy. This is one of my, what I call Elijah sunflowers. The deer bit these off and they came back with lots and lots of heads. Some of which the deer ate again. You can see over here, the deer bit this one off again and it's putting on 2 more flower heads. And all along here is supposed to be cucumbers. They all just died. They didn't do anything this year. I've got from these, which, you know, it's totally dead now. And that's the baby Persian. I got 3, maybe 4 cucumbers from those, and those are meant to be about this long. They're just little snacky cucumbers. I was really hoping to make sweet pickles with them this year, because in the past for me they've been prolific. But again, this is a new growing area for me. different soil. It hasn't been amended or built up in any way, so I guess I just didn't fertilize them enough or didn't give them enough of what they needed. So hopefully next year I will be able to do better. And past the cucumbers was my one and only pineapple tomato plant that survived, but it's been, bit off by the deer, and also they ate all the tomatoes that were on it. Got another sunflower here that's just about done, and another one that the deer ate off. But I'll show you the last nasturtium bloom that I saw. These did really well. I never planted nasturtiums before. And they're spicy. I think, if I remember correctly, I think the flowers are spicier than the leaves. But I like spicy stuff, so it's kind of neat. I didn't pick them and use them in anything. I might still do that with some of the leaves. But I've just kind of snacked on them in the garden here and there just to have as a novelty almost. Down to the next row. This row has this really cool, it is at the end, but I will insert some video of what this looked like earlier in the season. As you could tell, it's very neat. It's got little flower heads popping up all the way down the stem. So that's really cool. Thankfully the deer didn't eat that one. But my green beans are on the other side, and they were done producing. I was just going to save a few seeds from them for whatever was left. And the deer came in and chopped the tops off. I was going to chop and drop them here to feed the soil, but the deer had other plans. My marigolds are doing amazing. And aren't marigolds supposed to deter deer? The deer didn't get that memo. So I've been coming along and picking some of these dried up flower heads to save seeds for next year. But here is one little tomato. It's a big pink. This had other tomatoes on it, at least two, that were decent sized but weren't big enough to start changing color yet. And the deer ate them. So this one is not going to get to size before we do have a frost. So maybe, who knows, maybe we'll have a super late first frost. Here's one more tomato from that Black Prince that my sister gave me when she was here, and I did get to pick the one that was on here when we planted it, and it was delicious. It was about this size though, so I thought they'd be bigger than that, but let's see if the tag says how big they're supposed to be. 3 to 4 ounces. Yeah, I don't think that's 3 to 4 ounces. And these are my Tommy Toes. I have gotten 2 of these so far this year. And one of them's yummy, the other one is inside ripening. This one's starting to ripen. It's blushing, so I'll take that inside with me too. So I'll get 3 of them. But all my Romas, they've been bitten off at the top, ate all the tomatoes. It's frustrating. It's my dill. I haven't harvested any of this. I'm just going to see if I can get it all the way to dry and then collect the seeds for the dill seeds. can see, I do have some green beans here. But the deer have not eaten these yet, and maybe we will get them dried before it freezes. We'll find out. Here's my basil. Still teeny tiny, and it's going to seed, and I'm just going to let it. This one too. Just gonna let it go to seed. Maybe it'll reseed itself and come back next year and be awesome instead of piddly. More flowers. More decimated tomatoes. Oh, look, look, look. There's a tomato that they didn't eat. And it's turning red. It's stuck on a green bean. Yay! Okay, I will take that inside with me today too. And this marigold, I don't know where it came from. I planted 3 kinds of marigolds. I think 2 from packets and 1 that was saved seed from my last garden, which was came from seed from my sister. And it was these, the mix, orange and red mix. But this one, I don't think this is from the seeds that I saved. Like, I don't know. I've never seen a marigold like this, because it's nothing like the regular marigold. So I'm going to save seeds from this one if it finishes getting ready for that before it freezes. But yeah, I keep mentioning the frost and the freezes because they're coming. I don't know when they're coming, and they're not in the forecast yet. But last night / this morning was the coldest it has been so far this fall. Finish out the row with more chomped on tomatoes. There's a couple left. We'll see if they start to blush or not, so I can take them in the house. I'm just checking to see if there's any more tomatoes in here. They even ate the tomatoes right off the plants, like they're inside the marigolds. Like there's one little one here. But they even ate the ones that were inside of the marigolds, and those are supposed to be a deer deterrent. It's very frustrating. Now I gotta get, well, I'm just gonna go around the other way so I don't have to climb through my deer fence again. Look at the bees. Hey, guy. Okay, the next row is the brassicas. So I'm going to go ahead and take the netting off so that you guys can actually see what's going on in there. Now this, I am so excited about this. Look at this cauliflower. It's not super big, but I've never grown cauliflower before. I'm super excited. This one looks like it's starting to get ready to do something. And so is this one here. These are self-blanching cauliflower, so I shouldn't have to fold the leaves up. Honestly, like, they're not long enough that I could get something around them, I don't think. There's another little one back there. I can't remember exactly when I started these indoors, but I think it was March. And then planted them outside whenever I planted them outside, which I don't remember when I did that. It was later than it should have been. But they just sat here really small and doing nothing all summer, even when it got really, really hot. And then all of a sudden, bam, there's some cauliflower heading up. And it's so exciting. So can't wait till that's ready. I'm worried maybe it's starting to open up a little bit, but I think it's cool enough that it probably isn't, and I'm just being a little paranoid about it. But the second it shows more signs that it's going to try to flower, I'm gonna pick it. I added all of this old hay as some mulch around here, And I planted stuff in a few places. I think that might be something right there coming up, but I can't really tell. And a lot of these spots are still empty. There's one there. That's a little cauliflower. And over here, no. Oh yeah, that's it. It's been munched on by something, but there's some broccoli, I believe. There's some more broccoli. Another one. Not all of them have come up. Like that spot's empty. There's one. Nothing over there. So I got my cabbages. I've been harvesting them as we want to eat them. We had cabbage twice this past week. It was really good. This one is ready to go. This little bitty one next to it is ready to go. I don't know why these just grew together. It's the same plant. That one can go a little bit longer, but we could eat it too. That one's not quite ready. But I also planted some more plants in here. I think I put cabbages over here. I didn't label anything this fall. I've planted a lot of stuff and I'm just going on memory of what I put where, and my memory is not that good. So I have a vague idea of maybe what I planted, but I don't know 100% sure which variety, of course, and you know what thing. But I'll be able to tell when it gets bigger, so if they grow, we'll know what they are. But germination has been pretty spotty. Looks like whatever cabbage I planted here is doing pretty good coming up. And I think I planted the same kind by the same kind. Like those are, I think, Golden Acre. And so I put Golden Acre by them, and I put Early Jersey Wakefield by the Early Jersey Wakefield. And I put Mammoth Red Rock by the Mammoth Red Rock. I haven't harvested any of these yet. And they are definitely not mammoth. This one is starting to head up. They're starting to get heads on them. This one is the closest. But we'll see. Maybe they'll be like the cauliflower and they'll finish growing while it's getting cooler like this. Here's that's some kale, I think. It's either, yeah, I think that's some kale. Probably dino kale. My sister had given me some plant starts, and I planted them around in here first before I came back with the mulch and planted the other seeds. These are the Copenhagen cabbage, I believe. So far, all the cabbage that I've picked have been good and delicious. Now, this one's got some rot on the outside. I picked one like this the other day. This one's definitely still squishy. This one's got a little bit of rot too. This one's ready to go. So that'll probably be the next one that we eat. But I picked one like that and peeled off the outer layers, and it was perfectly fine on the inside. So I'm not worried too much about that. This one I'm a little worried about because it's worse. But I've had a lot of cabbage, so if that one doesn't eat, that's fine. And I've got my kale. I did not mulch down here yet. I'm not sure that I will. We'll see. But I've planted some more starts in here from my sister. I don't remember if I put any seeds in the ground. And that could be, I don't think I did. Because when I was planting seeds, I was putting the mulch down, putting the seeds in, and this hoop right here is as far as I got when I was doing that. So I think it's just the little starts. I need to harvest some more kale, but I do not have the energy to process that today. The last 3 or 4 days, my brother was up here visiting and helping with our basement renovation, and so I was busy doing drywall and mudding and taping and sanding, and I'm exhausted. So today is going to be a rest day. I've also been canning tons and tons of applesauce and dehydrating apples and picking more apples. So I've got another bushel and a half or so in the house that I would like to process still. And there's tons more on the trees, and yeah, so been doing lots of canning, also canned chicken stock. So yeah, I've been very, very busy. That's the red Russian kale, the dino or lacinato kale, and it's really just seeming to take off a little bit. It got a much slower start than the other ones. There's a few leaves on here that have, gotten too old, I think, and same with the premier kale. I guess all three of them have some leaves that are too old, but they're doing wonderful. And my Brussels sprouts are finally growing. They were just teeny tiny little things, just like the cauliflower. Like this one, still really small. There's a couple pepper plants in here that aren't gonna do anything, I don't think. But they are starting to get taller and get more leaves. And they're probably gonna outgrow this hoop before too long. So I'll have to figure out what I'm gonna do with that to protect them from deer and still be able to harvest them. And while I was planting all these starts in here, that day I saw a cabbage looper moth flying around my garden and landing on my kohlrabi, which is not underneath the hoop. And I've squished a couple caterpillars, but I haven't really seen much. The deer probably ate the caterpillars along with the kohlrabi. So there's that. Because the kohlrabi haven't eaten, and I will show you that in a minute. But I was opening up one little section at a time and reaching underneath the net to plant, and while trying to keep my eye on this moth so it didn't get in there, and cursing it the whole time. But thankfully these still seem to be safe, and now we'll show you the next row. This row is all pretty much all new stuff. You can see there's a couple things in there that are bigger, but this first section started out with things that my sister had given me starts of. I think this is tatsoi, which is a green, and this is some Mizuna, and over here is, I don't know if you can see it. Let me get my shadow out of the way. That's some sort of mustard. So from there all the way down to here was that stuff, and a lot of it died. It got super, super hot right after I planted all of this stuff, and it was hard just keeping the soil moist. It helped a little in here because I had the mulch, but other places I didn't have mulch, and that was difficult. But in these other spots I put other stuff. And I can't remember. I think rutabagas and pak choi. This is a deer footprint, so whatever I planted there got smashed way down into the ground. And over here more deer footprints, just smashing everything. I think this row was broccoli, and then cauliflower maybe, but nothing seems to be coming up, at least not yet. So I don't know if they will come up or not, but so far nothing. Here's I planted some more kohlrabi here. There's little ones popping up. Definitely not as many as I planted. And we got some more deer footprints. And then we have the original kohlrabi that never really bulbed up. So I read that maybe it's too much nitrogen in the soil. Look at that. It's a long stalk. It's supposed to be a big round thing. But the deer have been eating them. So, sorry cabbage looper, but you didn't stand a chance against the deer. And then I've got, I think I planted some more kohlrabi in this row. And then this row might be kohlrabi, it might be cauliflower. Because I've got another little cauliflower there, and there was another one, but the deer ripped it out. Oh, there's one here that the deer ate off. And then this was where I planted peppers all the way down to the end. Most of them died. A couple little bitty ones survived. I think that's a jalapeno. That's either a jalapeno or a shishito. But they're not going to give me anything. They're just cute little tiny plants doing nothing. But now I've got radishes, and they're already starting to bulb up. So that's exciting. I do not remember which variety I planted where, but I think I did a different variety per row. So each row is something different. And they're doing good. I'm excited. Now, this, I believe, is pak choi. I think this is pak choi here. And more pak choi. Like the end of that row germinated really well, but the rest is kind of spotty. I think this must be some more pak choi, but something's eating it. So I'd really like to get these rows covered to protect them from the deer and possible more cabbage looper moths, because they are not done. They keep showing up every once in a while. These two rows are celery, and I think I might have just like one or two little things right there in that row, but it did not germinate very well. And these 3 rows here are rutabagas. Never grown rutabagas before. So I've never grown pak choi, tatsoi, mustard, mizuna, or celery before either. So we'll see how that stuff does. Then here, the deer ate off the tops of all my peppers. I was able to pick most of the peppers themselves, which they were like that big. At the biggest, they really weren't very big at all. And you see the deer made a hole right there, right in the middle of this row. I think I did more rutabagas and pak choys over here, but I'm not sure if there's anything else that I planted over here. Honestly, I cannot remember what I put over here. I think mostly it was rutabagas and pak choi. And lots of stuff is coming up. It's kind of very sporadic, and it's getting stepped on by the deer, which isn't helping. You can see this row has several deer footprints in it. And the second to last row in the garden is kind of cute. You can see there's a big deer footprint, and then there's little bitty deer footprints. So apparently they had a baby in tow with them one day when they came in here. But my calendula, looking beautiful. Got one that I'm waiting for the seeds to dry on here. And I think I got a few flowers. You can see this was not the deer, this was me picking the flower heads to save them and dry them. But the rest I think I'm going to try to save for seeds for next year. My beans, same thing here, they're done, and I was going to just chop them down and lay them down as mulch, but the deer have topped them as well. My pumpkins didn't do anything. My peas, I planted a whole bunch of peas very densely, and they are coming up. They're going pretty slow, but this is the kind of weather they like. Hopefully this time they will reach the trellis before they start tying themselves together. But I've also planted a row of radishes all the way down. And this is where I didn't really have mulch, and it was very hard to get these to germinate. But they're finally growing. Definitely sporadic germination, probably because of you know, how hot it was when I planted them. And that's basically the story the entire row down. So I'm going to climb out of the garden through the fishing line and take you along the other side of this row, show you the carrots. So I've been coming out and thinning every once in a while. I haven't done a great job of it. They're still way too densely closely planted, but there are some. If you can see that in there, I'm gonna push the dirt back over there. There's some decent sized carrots in here, and I was trying to thin them out so that they could get bigger. And these are the ones I planted in spring. They've been here the whole time, but the deer are kind of eating the tops off. Thankfully, they're not eating them all the way down to the ground, so they're doing okay. But they're definitely, you know, losing some tops. The theme of today is deer keep eating my food. Oh, this one got pulled out. It's all dried up, but these are the ones where I've been thinning them. I've been getting them about this size, and I figure I'll just get enough of them one day and make a shepherd's pie using that, and I won't have to chop up the carrots. And they taste good so far. The ones that I have eaten have tasted really good. So I've got carrots all along here. They're doing really well. And I don't know if it's just me or if it's the area that carrots are going to be an entire season vegetable like the cauliflower, but we'll see. This last row has been completely taken over by grass, pretty much, except down there at the end I think there was more mulch where the potatoes were, and that's looking okay. So that's where I'm going to plant my garlic. I probably already should have it planted, but again, I've been super busy with other things. It is on my to-do list. And then they have this one little spot of zinnias. These just recently started flowering. And some of these blossoms, look how teeny tiny that is. And it may just be because they are planted so incredibly close together. I just took a handful, like a whole seed, a whole flower head, or just a handful out of the bag that I had, and just pushed the dirt away and stuck it under the ground and covered it back up. And so there's a ton coming up from one spot, but they are pretty. My apple trees are doing really well. They have, I'll show you on these downed apples. These are apples that fell off the ground. Either, you know, bugs are eating them, or they have a rotten spot, or they're bruised really bad and aren't going to store or save. Like that, bugs are eating that. But they have this blight or fungus or something on them. I'm pretty sure it's safe to eat. I've been eating it, so. But these, I think, are golden delicious apples. And then, I'm not sure what kind these are, but they're good. These are the red ones are a little more tart. But these are rotten apples that somebody's going to pick up to feed to some animals. My chickens are sick of apples after all the applesauce that I've been making and giving them all the peels and cores and stuff. And they're like, oh, we don't want to eat any more of that. So I found somebody to come and take some of these apples so they don't just rot and cause more bug issues next year and more pest problems and, you know, yellow jackets coming and trying to eat off of them and stuff like that. So, plus the deer have been coming in here and eating them. That was the original draw, I think, for the deer to come over here, were these apple trees, because they are just right at the back of the garden here. Didn't even know they were apple trees when I planted the garden. I thought maybe they were crab apples and just maybe not something that would give us an abundance of food. But they're good apple trees, and I'm kind of excited about it. I'm hoping that next year I'll be able to take care of them a little better, you know, thin them out, and I need to go through and do some pruning, which I don't know a whole lot about pruning yet, so I'm going to need to learn that. Probably won't kill the trees, but that's my fear. Over here, the asparagus, some of it's turned brown, but some of it is still green, so I'm waiting for all that to die back. I can mow through here and hopefully get a whole bunch of mulch or something on it to help with weeds next year. These strawberries are getting overrun with weeds, and I need to weed them and mulch them with, some more hay or straw. But the everbearing ones are still giving some strawberries. They're all teeny tiny, but they taste delicious. And they just haven't had enough water. It has not been raining here very much at all. And then over there by the barn wall, I've planted a whole bunch of lavender starts. Not really starts. Not sure how to describe them, but I was thinning out the giant lavender bush at the library, and there were a bunch of places where it had rooted to the ground, and so I took some of those sections home. There's still a whole bunch in there that we want to actually pull out because, this plant was more like a shrub. It's overtaking the sidewalk and, the little path through the garden. So we're wanting to take out the ones closer to the path so that we can still get through there to the back of the flower beds. And so I might end up with some more, but I've planted them here, and they don't look like they're doing great at the moment, but I think they'll be fine because I took a few sections of it earlier this year. This was one of those, and I thought it was dead, but it is not, and it's growing again. So I'm hopeful that these will all do the same thing. So it's going to smell really nice over here next year. Now, that is usually where I stop my garden tours, but I always forget to show you my herbs. I have herbs growing, and I have all season long. I think all of them actually were from my sister and my mom. They had brought up a whole bunch of plant starts at one point from my sister's garden, some perennial herbs, and one kind of basil that it's a black opal basil. It doesn't taste great. It makes a great tea, but I don't really like to use it in cooking so much. But if you let it go to seed, it's going to be everywhere forever. And it's pretty. So, but she brought me some of that, and some mint, and some chives, and some lemon balm. So I'm going to show you those. So this big planter came with the property, and in it we planted a mint. There's a chocolate mint and a peppermint, and I can never remember which one's which. So it's one of those. Chives, we actually harvested some to make some jalapeno poppers the other day, and this is the black opal basil. Its leaves have been kind of like blanched out right now. It's usually much darker purple, but it's about to go to seed, and I'm gonna have it forever. I will show you. This area is a mess. It's got a couple flowers and plants that I need to put in the ground. These are my pawpaw seeds that are not germinating, and I don't know if they're going to germinate, but I need to get all this stuff addressed pretty soon before it freezes. I had some oregano, and unfortunately I think it died. I actually killed oregano. I don't know how I did that. But I've got 2 green stalks here, and unfortunately they're not on a level surface, so it's kind of difficult to keep them watered properly. You're supposed to put water in this top reservoir, and it goes down and evenly feeds all the pockets, but it's not on an even surface, so it doesn't actually do that. But in this one I planted a whole bunch of leafy greens, lettuces, arugula. This one looks like a brassica, so I'm not sure what I planted up here, but I thought I just planted lettuces in this one. And I planted this a long time ago, and they're just now starting to pop up. So they might not make it very long. I might not get anything before it gets too cold. And this one, I've got radishes. And same thing, they are just starting to pop up, even though I planted them before the stuff I planted in the garden. This is a petunia or a pansy. I get those mixed up and can never remember which one's which. That my daughter got for free at a garden center. I went to buy rosemary, and they were trying to get rid of their plants, and they just let her have a couple free plants. And so she planted that one, and she planted this one, which has died off completely. And here is my rosemary that I planted, or that I purchased. I need to put it in a pot and take it in the house for the winter, because it is not a perennial here. I could risk it, but I think next year, or maybe this winter, I'll prune it back and try to root the other end. Because rosemary is one of those things where you can root cuttings from it. So I might try to do that, and then next year I will try to find a place like close to the house and a sunny or close to a building on the south side of a building and plant it there and see if I can get it to survive the winter. But rosemary, I think it's more of a zone 6 and higher numbers that it will survive over the winter, and here it will die most likely. I have one more pot in the back of the house to show you. This is my last pot of herbs. Got lemon balm and another mint. I think this is the chocolate mint because it's got a much darker stem. The one in the front must be peppermint. So something was eating the mint earlier, but it seems to be doing better now. This pot was left here as well, and I just planted right in the soil that was potting soil that was still in it, just like the one in the front. I do have some bigger pots that I need to get filled with potting soil and put a few things in, but I would like to separate these out so they each have their own pot, and the same for the ones in the front. So each of those perennial herbs can just grow and have its own space and its own pot and get a lot bigger and be happier and more productive. But that is probably a job for a future year, maybe next year, maybe the year after that. We'll see what happens. Always playing it by ear here. There's always something to do and not enough time to do all of it. But thank you for coming along on this garden tour with me and an update on what's been going on around here. And I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye!